if anyone could access all your messages, would you still send them? While privacy has always been a concern, sending a secure message wasn't always simple. 500 years ago in Greece, a chief named Histiaeus was organizing a revolt and needed support, but his messages had to stay hidden, really hidden. So he used his head, or rather, the head of his courier. He shaved his courier's head, tattooed a message on his skull, and when the hair had grown back enough, sent him on a mission. But in a world of instant global communication, it's not exactly a useful way to keep information private and secure. So how are messaging apps protecting users' privacy today? And how did they get there? As long as words have been written down, there's been a need for privacy. When a message only goes to the intended recipient, people are willing to write what's really on their mind. Whether it was words written as anagrams, hidden inks, or Histiaeus' tattoos, delicate information had to be kept from prying eyes one way or another.
Ever since writing began, there are people who have had secret messages, and they've needed encryption to protect those secrets. I'm Simon Singh. I'm the author of The Code Book, a book about the history of encryption. So in the Old Testament, we find examples of a cipher known as atbash. This is a Hebrew cipher which replaces every letter with its paired letter from the other end of the alphabet. So in English, it would mean replacing A with Z, B with Y, and so on.
But the atbash cipher was fairly simple, and more complex forms of encryption were soon needed. Why? Because of people like Arab scientist Al-Kindi.
What Al-Kindi discovered is that every letter has a personality. And when I say personality, I mean things like the frequency of a letter. In English, the letter E is incredibly common. And if we replace E with, say, a cross, then the cross will become very, very common as well. Code makers gradually got the idea that their codes were being broken. So the code makers had to come up with stronger forms of encryption.
And as long as code breakers existed, the privacy of encrypted messages would always be at risk. Privacy that was needed for people like Lord Granville. He had a family with a lover who was considered beneath him, which in Georgian England would have destroyed his reputation. To secretly care for them, he wrote thousands of encrypted letters, manipulated multiple languages, and used ciphers. Anything to maintain privacy. But the world was changing fast, with new technology that would generate more messages than Lord Granville could dream of, or possibly encrypt. In 1844, Samuel Morse sent the first telegraphic message, ushering in an era of instant long-distance communication. In a few decades, every major U.S. city would be connected via telegraphic lines. Radio and the telephone soon followed. Mass communication was here, but the more people could communicate, the more privacy was at risk.
Now these are fantastic because they allow you to send large amounts of information over large distances very, very quickly. The problem is, I can tap a telegraph wire, I can tap a telephone line, I can tap into radio waves being broadcast through the air. So the need for encryption becomes more important than ever before.
New technology was shaping every aspect of our lives.
So in the past, when we had things of value like gold and jewelry, we would put them into a safe, shut the door, turn the key, and our valuables would be protected. Today we live in the information age, and our information is precious. And the way we protect information is not with a lock and a key, but with encryption.
Today, the average person creates a mind-boggling amount of data on a daily basis, on average almost 2 megabytes per second. Financial and medical records are obvious, but what about texting the neighbor about a spare key or sharing a Wi-Fi password? Americans need to keep their personal data private, but not all text messengers offer the same level of security and privacy. Using encryption can help keep them away from prying eyes. When you send a personal message on WhatsApp, for example, it automatically utilizes end-to-end encryption. That means locking the content of the message and making sure only the sender and the recipient have the key. And WhatsApp users can even set messages to automatically disappear after 24 hours. We no longer live in a world where we need a barber to send private messages. But as communication technology continues to evolve, so do the threats to your privacy. It's important to understand when your personal messages are vulnerable. Because if they aren't protected with end-to-end encryption, you should ask yourself, are you really messaging in private?